All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Kyle Shanahan just had his press conference. We're going to go through everything that he said and talk a little bit about it right now. Come aboard. All right, welcome to the Krug Show on a Monday. Kyle Shanahan has just spoken. We will talk about everything that he discussed, as well as a few thoughts on the game. If you want to chime in, please do. Please do. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sleeper. We'll talk about them in a second. But first, Kyle Shanahan just finished speaking to the media after the 49ers' ugly loss in Houston. He always starts with the injuries, and he's got 5 guys that are day-to-day. Sam O's got an ankle injury. He's day-to-day. Who else? Jordan Elliott's got an ankle injury. He's day-to-day. Alfred Collins has got an injury. He's day-to-day. I forget exactly what it was. Mac Jones has got a knee bruise, a knee contusion. He got thrown down really hard on one play. It looked pretty bad. So he's day-to-day with the knee bruise, and D. Winters is also day-to-day with the knee bruise. I guess the biggest news of all coming out of this presser is not really significant news because, I think people overreacted to the news on Friday. I was there on Friday when Shanahan said, he was asked, is it possible that Brandon Aiyuk could have his practice window opened as soon as next week? And he's like, it's possible. Well, today he said Brandon Aiyuk will not have his 3-week practice window open this week. He's just not ready. Shanahan said that, it's a week-to-week thing from here on out. So it could be any week that he starts his 3-week practice window. I would have been very, very surprised if he had said today, yeah, he's going to be out there on Wednesday, because it just doesn't seem like it's that close. It doesn't seem like he's getting that close to being back. He had a major injuries, 3 major injuries. He suffered it in week 7 last year. We're now approaching week 9. This last week was week 8. So this would have been just a 1 full year, basically, plus 1 week if he had come back this week. So I've been saying it since, all summer, all spring, all summer. Expect him back between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's when he's going to come back. This whole idea that he was going to be back super early was crazy talk. And the idea that he would come back even, in the first half of the year seemed like totally crazy talk when you consider the severity of his injury. So I would say it's going to be at least 3 more weeks before the 3-week window gets opened. So right now it's, 3rd week in October. Now approaching the 4th week in October. So, I would say he's going to be back. I would say he probably is going to be back sometime around Thanksgiving. It's like, that's what I've been saying for the whole time. And it's going that direction. It looks like right around Thanksgiving. I would say there's a chance he does not come back this year. When you factor in how serious the situation was, where he blew out 3 major portions of the knee, to me, the not playing this year option was probably always greater than he was going to be back week 1. But nobody wanted to go with that. Nobody wanted to buy that. I'm not sure why people were singing that song, but whatever. It doesn't matter. We're here now. It's late October, and he's not going to be back this week. So then I would imagine, he may be back in 2 or 3 weeks as far as the window opening. And then you have 3 weeks after that. So, I would say get ready to see him in about a month to a month and a half, which would be roughly Thanksgiving, or maybe the week after Thanksgiving, or possibly, the first or second week of December. I think that's probably what they're gearing towards. So that was the other big news today. I think some people were expecting Brandon Aiyuk to practice on Wednesday and have his practice window open. Now, Shanahan did indicate that Ben Bartch will have his 3-week practice window opened, and they're eager to get Ben Bartch back because he's playing at a higher level than Connor Colby, or at least was when he went out. Bartch just has a hard time staying healthy, period, throughout his career. It's really been his bugaboo. But when he's in there, he's good. And he's strong, and he knows what he's doing, and he's probably an upgrade on Connor Colby right now. So they're going to try to get him back probably as soon as possible. So if you told me that he's having his window open this week and that he could be back for the Giants, I would say, yeah, I'd say there's a possibility. There's definitely a possibility. As far as other things today, Ricky Pearsall, still Shanahan's, is he coming back this week? And Shanahan's like, well, he's not on my list of guys that are definitely coming back. So we'll just have to see. And well, I mean, it's like, so that just knee injury just continues to linger week after week after week. No Ricky Pearsall. Shanahan says he hopes to get him back, but it didn't sound good. It didn't sound like he's expecting him back at all. As far as Brock Purdy, Shanahan was asked, will the MetLife turf play any kind of a role in the Niners' decision to bring Purdy back this week or not? And Shanahan's like, no, won't have an impact. So even though that's the most treacherous turf in the league, and Brock has turf toe, and I would imagine that playing on the worst turf in the league is probably not the best thing for turf toe. Shanahan said, no, won't have any impact on whether or not Brock returns. If he's ready to return this week, then he will play on that turf. But then it didn't sound, they were like, well, are you ready to, say that he's out for this week? And Shanahan's like, it's just too early to say. But I would say my guess, okay, if you're asking me, what do you think's going on with the Brock Purdy thing? I think the Niners understand fully. At first it was like, hey, Brock, we're going to let you make the call. What do you think? And then they realized, hey, this guy just wants to play so damn bad. He's going to tell us he's healthy before he's healthy. So, I mean, literally he suffered the turf toe, and then in week 1 against Seattle, and then missed week 2 and week 3. Okay. So then he came back for week 4 against Jacksonville, hurt it worse. And now here is like the second go round at trying to heal it, right? They tried to give it a couple weeks, didn't work, came back in the Jacksonville game, made it worse. Then I think, the doctor that I talked to said, if you're going to really, heal from turf toe, you got to give it 2 to 6 weeks is what the doctor that I said, Dr. William Workman from Walnut Creek, who's an orthopedist. And now he's not Brock's doctor, and he's never seen Brock's toe. But he did say, hey, you need 2 to 6 weeks to recover. So I kind of think the 49ers want to see if they can give Brock the 2 to 6 weeks. Now, they've already kind of broken the rules because they're practicing him. And I think the whole 2 to 6 weeks thing is 2 to 6 weeks, like, stay off it. Don't make it worse. And it's certainly nowhere in there to say, well, but you could practice like an NFL player, so they're practicing him in the meantime. But if you just want to count the weeks, so he was out for he came back in the Jaguar game. So the next week, the Ram game would be 1 week, the Buccaneer game would be 2 weeks, the Falcon game would be 3 weeks, the Texans game would be 4 weeks. If he missed this Giants game, that would be 5 weeks. And the Ram game would be 6. I think in an ideal world, you'd give him 8. So, he could be out until the middle of November, or he could be out till roughly Thanksgiving. He might not be back. So, I mean, if they're going to really give it the full 6 weeks of rest, that would mean Rams, Bucks, Falcons, Texans, Giants, Rams again. He would miss those games and probably return against the Cardinals in the middle of November. So if you ask me, I think that sounds about right. give it another go in the middle of November. I think I would wait, but depending on how the Niners do, I mean, if they beat the Giants and the Rams, then maybe you bring them back against the Cardinals, or maybe you hold them off against the Cardinals and bring them back. Maybe you hold them off till the Panthers, until the November 24th. If you lose to the Giants and Rams, maybe you feel the impetus to get him back out there and you put him back out there against the Cardinals. That would be my guess. I think Brock likely misses 2 more games. Giants and Rams, and comes back either in the middle of November against the Cardinals or Thanksgiving time against the Panthers. Both of those, or Cardinal game would be on the road. The Panther game would be at home. And then what do you have left? You have Panthers, Browns, Titans, Colts, Bears, Seahawks, and then it's playoff time. So that would be my guess. My guess is that that they're going to try to give it time to heal, and that is, I mean, I'm sure their doctors can't be so dramatically different than the doctor that I talked to. I guarantee you that it's probably, they're somewhere. Their doctor has probably said the same thing. Whether it's 2 to 6 weeks, 2 to 8 weeks, it's probably right there. Between, let's say, 5 and 8 weeks as far as rehabilitation. And he played in Jacksonville. So that means he would miss, if it was 5 weeks, he would miss 1 more game. And if it's 6 weeks, he would miss 2 more games. If it's 8 weeks, he'd miss 4 more games. So we'll see. But somewhere in there, I think you're going to see Brock give it a go. But because he played in the Jacksonville game and made it worse, maybe he needs more rehabilitation than we even realized. But they're saying they're hoping to get him back, but no promises as far as this week. But the turf won't make any impact. He was asked about Kyle was asked about Jake Brendel and Bryce Huff. Are they both likely out? He says, well, he doesn't want to say for sure, but it looks like it's trending that way. Kyle was asked the question about Nick Martin. I mean, I was going to ask this question, where is Nick Martin? And Kyle said that, he's done well on special teams, that he's in the mix to play. He's up on game day, and right now he's behind Curtis Robinson. So I think the question has to be, why is he behind Curtis Robinson? And Gilmore, or I should say Gifford, played in this game. Is he behind Gifford too? I mean, what's getting Nick Martin on the field? Because it seems like they're only going to put him on the field when they absolutely have to. And why is that? This guy was your 3rd round draft choice. Are you that bad at drafting that the guy that you drafted in the 3rd round in April, you're already totally disenchanted with come summertime? And now here we are in the fall, and he's persona non grata, and he can't get on the field. And every special team linebacker in the greater Santa Clara area is getting playing time over your 3rd round pick. What's going on there? Either your scouts are wrong, Lynch is wrong, and you picked the wrong guy, or you're being very, very cautious with your 3rd round linebacker. But why is he not playing? Why is this guy continuing? He looked good in the preseason. He looks like one of your better athletes, to be completely honest. Now he can't get on the field for special teams linebackers. I think we're going to have to follow up on that later in the week. Demarcus Robinson, he was asked about Demarcus Robinson. Is he not producing because he's out of rhythm, because he missed time out of camp because of the suspension? Shanahan wouldn't gravitate towards any of that, just saying he did some good things yesterday and he's progressing. Shanahan was asked about mental errors against Houston, and he's like, yeah, there were mental errors. Not a lot, or not more than usual, but there were definitely mental errors. He was asked about the defensive effort and what he thought about the defensive collective effort. And he said the effort, to the running to the football was good. But then he cited the breakdowns. Tatum Bethune got stuck inside. He thought Marks was going to blitz. Marks kind of gave him that kind of look like he was going to stay into blitz or stay into block. And then Bethune went at the quarterback. And as soon as Bethune committed to the quarterback, Marks slipped into the flat. They threw it to him, and clearly he was Bethune's guy because he rumbled 50 yards down the field. I mean, Kyle talked about that. He said that was a busted play. He talked about the 30-yard Jair Brown crossing pattern coverage bust and said, hey, look, man, he just got beat. He was a step behind in man-to-man coverage. So so that's pretty much the long and the short of everything that got discussed today. Kyle also was asked about, the defensive end spot. It's like, what do you do with Travis Gibson? Is he out of elevations? Can he no longer be elevated from the practice squad? And Shanahan said, yeah, he's out of elevations. So he's like, this is what and so like they're like, what's your plan for Gibson? He's like, well, this is what happens when you have 6 or 7 defensive linemen that are out with injuries. We'll have to see, what we're going to do here. They're going to have to either put him on the active roster. They're going to have to somehow figure it out. They can no longer elevate Travis Gibson. And by the way, the issue isn't that they keep elevating Travis Gibson. The issue is that Travis Gibson's playing like half the snaps of the game. And he was a, off the street free agent that you signed at the end of training camp. That's how depleted you are on the defensive line. But, name me the practice squad defensive end that the 49ers picked off of somebody else's roster and put on their own. I don't remember any. I can't think of any. So I'm kind of wondering, it's like this, let's cry a river for the Niners. They're sure beat up. Make moves, There's every team in the league's got practice squad defensive ends that you could take right now, put on your active roster. Do it, or make a trade, do something. I mean, you're going to have to do something. You can't just sit with what you got. And if they sit with what they got, I mean, they're cooked. It was a really rough game for the pass rush. We'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, Gibson can no longer be elevated off the practice squad. So they're either going to have to put him on the active roster or come up with some other option. And then he was asked about Juwan Jennings' health. And he's like, hey, man, JJ's been banged up all year. Ankle, ribs, shoulder. As far as what's the worst right now, I don't know. I mean, maybe the ribs, ankle, rib, shoulder. He's been banged up all year. So Shanahan, and he's obviously going to try to go, and he's trying to play hurt. He's trying to play through it, and we shall see. So that's pretty much the long and the short of the Shanahan presser today. Brandon Aiyuk will not have his practice window opened. Meaning he will not be playing against the Giants. It doesn't sound like Purdy's going to be playing against the Giants. It doesn't sound like Pearsall is going to return against the Giants. It doesn't sound like Brendel or Huff are going to be able to play against the Giants. But Bartch may. Bartch may he's having his 3-week practice window opened, and he might be able to play. The defensive line really banged up. Sam O, Jordan Elliott, Alfred Collins, all dinged up day to day. So we'll see if they bring in any kind of reinforcements on the defensive line. But there you have it there. And then, Juwan Jennings is going to try to gut it out through the pain. So that's pretty much the long and the short of the Kyle Shanahan presser. Now, there were a couple other thoughts, just watching the film again and listening to Kyle. I mean, the 49ers in this game had absolutely zero pass rush. They're going to have to do something. Houston allowed 0 sacks for the first time all year. Houston allowed a season low 21.4% pressure rate. The Niners blitzed. I mean, think about this. Houston allowed no sacks for the first time all year, despite being a bad line. Houston allowed their season low pressure rate. So they looked, as far as they're concerned, man, they did a really nice job blocking the Niner D line. The Niners blitzed on a season high 33.3% of Stroud's dropbacks. But and they had to, because when the Niners did not blitz, Stroud was pressured in only 2 of 28 dropbacks. So, I mean, why you want to talk about the name of this game and why things went south? That's it right there. CJ Stroud was pressured on 2 of 28 dropbacks, despite the 49ers blitzing at the highest rate they have all year. And Stroud wasn't sacked one time for the first time this season. And the 49ers, didn't produce hardly any pressure against him. And then Mac Jones, by comparison, was pressured on 44% of his dropbacks. So that's really it. There were some positives. The Niners' red zone defense. Houston went 1 for 5 in the red zone. The Niners still have a very good record against the NFC. They're 5-1 against the NFC. They've got a very good record against the NFC West. They're 3-0 against the NFC West. The special teams was probably the best it's been all year. Brian Robinson had a beautiful 46-yard return, which set up the 49ers score right before half, which made it a ball game in name only. But yeah, I mean, the 49ers badly missed Huff and Bosa. And they badly missed Fred Warner. CJ Stroud completed 14 of 15 for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns on in-breaking routes. I mean, that's just basically, he just did whatever he wanted on in-breaking routes. Middle was wide freaking open all day. 86.7 success rate on in-breaking routes in this game thrown by CJ Stroud. Niner safeties were abysmal. D. Winters, who, a lot of people, I've heard people say this. D. Winters is the best coverage linebacker in the game. What? Shut up. Seriously, shut up. D. Winters is not anywhere close to the greatest coverage linebacker in the game. He allowed 7 receptions on 7 targets for 59 yards. And in those 7 receptions, 3 of them went for first downs. 1 of them went for a touchdown. Come on. D. Winters is fast, but don't call him the best coverage linebacker in the game. It's an insult. It's an insult to all the other guys. Houston ran the ball at will. They got huge amounts of chunk plays. The Niners gave up explosives. The Niners couldn't stop the run. The Niners were absolutely a joke in the middle of the field. The Niners safeties and their nickel corner have struggled a lot this year for different reasons, right? I mean, Stout is maybe a little bit over aggressive. Brown lacks some speed. Mustafa hasn't played very much, so he's pretty rusty. I mean, Houston absolutely roasted them, and they didn't have their 2 top receivers, Nico Collins or Christian Kirk. I mean, think about that. So there you go. That's pretty much a wrap on the Houston game. But just watching the film again, way too many missed tackles, way too many soft coverages. Just in the first half alone, Nick Chubb carried Malik Mustafa 3 yards after contact. 3rd and 1, Stroud went to Jalen Knoll. Renardo Green, super soft coverage. 2nd and 5, Stroud went to who'd he go to at this? He went to the guy who was making his first appearance in the NFL, and Renardo Green had really soft coverage on him, allowed an 8-yard reception on 2nd and 5. Stroud went to Hutchinson against Lenore in the first half. Lenore, super soft coverage. 3rd and 11. Let's see, who was it that Stroud went to? Berrios, that's who it was. And he went to Berrios against Green on that 2nd and 5. Then on 3rd and 11, Stroud went to Berrios, and Jaylen Brown and D. Winters both missed tackles. The Niners should have gotten off the field on 3rd and 11, and instead they gave up a first down. Brown missed the tackle. Winters missed the tackle. Winters doesn't even tackle, by the way. Winters just hits. Tackling means you got to put your arms around the guy. His arms are in tight, and he's looking to hit. He hits, but if you don't go down on his hits, you don't go down because he doesn't wrap. He's one of the worst wrapping linebackers I think I've seen. He will hit you, but he's 220 pounds, and if he doesn't hit you flush, you're probably not going down, and he doesn't wrap. So Winters is, really struggled in this game. But they both missed tackles on that 3rd and 11 on the Stroud to Berrios first down. Stroud went to Nick Chubb. Upton Stout missed the tackle. Stroud on a quarterback sneak was stuck in the backfield. Tatum Bethune dove back there, missed the tackle. Will Anderson just absolutely kicked Colton McKivit's ass in this game. Hit Mac Jones. Then he hit Mac Jones on the next play, hit his arm on the pass play. Then Tatum Bethune gets stuck inside, and Stroud goes to Woody Marks for 50 yards. I mean, Houston consistently took away the Niners' screen passes and just said, nope, nope. It's just a very frustrating game. I mean, there were positives. Kalia Davis had a nice tip pass. Demo Lenore had a solo tackle of Jared Wayne. D. Winters had a nice run defense play. Him and Bethune made a nice play against the run. Jair Brown had a big hit on Chubb. Big tackle for a loss. And then that led to a field goal attempt. That was a nice play. I mean, the defense held early. Brian Robinson had a beautiful 46-yard kickoff return before the end of the first half. CMC had a nice little run on a draw. Mac Jones had a beautiful scramble that was negated by a face mask penalty from Jawan Jennings. Saron Neal had a beautiful solo tackle on Jalen Knoll on the punt coverage unit. Stout made a couple nice plays against the run. Kendrick Bourne caught a beautiful out route for the Niners' first down. It came like inside the 2-minute warning in the first half. And then Mac Jones with it could have been a pick, but it was a 17-yard dime of a touchdown pass to George Kittle. And Kittle made an amazing play. But, the 49ers, just very disappointing. C.J. Stroud against Seattle on Monday Night Football last week. We're not talking about years ago. We're talking about last week with the same receivers. Actually, no. He had Nico Collins in that game, his best receiver. In that game, he completed 47% of his passes. He had completed like 85% at halftime in this game. It's just unbelievable. Houston did go to some 6 O-lineman looks early on because they were anticipating it being very difficult to run. And then once they realized they could run on the Niners, they're like, screw this. We're not going with the 6 O-linemen. We'll just play it straight. We don't need to go 6 O-linemen. Houston had multiple penalties on that first drive, and they still found a way to score. Usually you fall behind the sticks one time in a drive, and that's going to derail the drive. No. Houston had multiple penalties and still found a way to score. We saw Robert Saleh send 6 rushers on a 3rd and 7 play in the first half. And, it still wound up being a 6-yard gain on 3rd and 7 and led to a 4th and 1, and they converted the 4th and 1. So, Saleh tried to dial up some exotic blitzes and put some pressure. It's like the Texans scored a field goal on their first drive. It was the first points the Niners defense had allowed on first drives all season. 16-play drive. CMC was held to 8 yards in the first half. That's his career low. It was just a bad game. Just a bad game. Niners on the road, shorthanded. Really not on a short week. Houston was on the short week, but the Niners shorthanded on the road against the best defense in the league. And they looked bad. They looked really bad. So it's just really as simple as that. We could belabor a bunch of different points and go forever, but that was pretty much it. And Shanahan, had whatever he had to say today. The headline grabber is Aiyuk is not going to suit up, but I think that headline Friday was wrong. And you had all kinds of people going with it. Oh, Aiyuk's going to be back soon. No, he's not. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not going to be back soon. I would say he's probably going to have his practice window opened within 3 weeks, and then he's going to play within 3 weeks after that. So Kent in here says, got any good news, Larry? Yeah, good news. The game's over. How's that? The Niners have been put out of their misery. Any good news? The New York Giants won't have Cam Scattaboo. It's bad news for him, but it's good news for the Niners. Let's hit a couple supers. We've got these right here. Javid Iqbal. A loss evidence shows we are bad at drafting. Yeah, I mean, the 49ers, it's like you can't really build a dynasty, no matter what your plan is, if you hit and then you miss, and then you miss, and then you hit, and then you hit, and then you miss, and then you miss, and then you hit. I mean, you can't go like that. You have to hit consecutively. The 49ers are big on their process. They're big on their group effort. I've heard Lynch and Shanahan talk endlessly about, it's a whole organizational effort. Yeah, you know what though? When it's a whole organizational effort, when you introduce that many people to your equation, there's that many more mistakes to be made. Who does the best? The guys who just, they have like a really, really tight inner circle. I mean, it's a big process for every organization. And you're going to have your research and development people. You're going to have your analytics squad. But I mean, you need to have some genius picker. You need to have somebody who's really good at picking players. And if you have a process that's elaborate, then you're gonna hit and you're gonna miss. It's like if you're incorporating that many opinions, you're gonna hit and you're gonna miss. Who hits and hits and hits? Somebody who, a GM who's got a really good scouting director, a couple of really good scouts, and they really see the draft clearly and well and hit on a bunch of picks. The Niners haven't been the worst drafting team, but they can't get the kind of momentum going that's going to take to outdraft some of these other teams and to beat them. You can't. I mean, I don't know if they're bad at drafting, but I feel like they're not as they're not as open-minded as they need to be. When the clock's rolling, you've got to be able to say, hey, look, now value has struck and here's where it exists. I think the 49ers have decided weeks and weeks and weeks before the draft, we are going for this player or we have to have this player. The fact that they get wed to one player. I mean, they almost traded up in the draft for McHale. He has no sacks, or he has one sack maybe. I mean, he doesn't get a lot done. But they loved him. They targeted him. They wanted him. Lynch almost traded up for him. I mean, the only thing worse than drafting him at 11 would have been trading up for him. And look at the list of the players the Niners have traded up for in this era. It's ugly. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis, C.J. Beathard. They traded up for all those guys. Joe Williams. When Kyle gets impulsive with his offensive picks, it's time to go in a different direction. But that's where they've made their mistakes. When Kyle's like, I got to have this guy. So much so that I need you to trade up for him. And that's where it goes south. So, yes, I do think they need help drafting. And it's not that they need to incorporate 19 more research and development people or a bunch of new analytics people. Let's just let football guys make football decisions and let the analytics crowd be there to just provide data for the football people. I get the sense that the analytics people actually have a say, and that's not good. That's not the way it should go. You should have a veteran football guy who digests it all and says, we're going to listen to the analytics people here. We're going to ignore the analytics people here. We're going to go with the research and development here. We're going to ignore the research and development here. We're going to listen to our coaches here. We're going to not listen to our coaches here. I mean, I get the feeling that they're trying to have this happy, successful group project where everybody's happy and everybody's advice is heeded and listened to. And it's not working. They're hitting, they're missing, they're missing, they're hitting, they're hitting, they're missing. You have to hit and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. When you hit 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row, guess what? You win. You win. Then you're Howie Roseman. That's how you win. They're not there. They're not there yet. It's just their process is they're trying hard. They want it. They're incorporating too many people, and they don't have just What they got to have is they got to have that genius college director of college scouting. That's who the GM should be. And he shouldn't have to listen to your wide receiver coach. And he shouldn't have to listen to your offensive line coach. And he shouldn't have to listen to some research development person from the 11th floor who never played a down of football. And he shouldn't have to, you know what I'm saying? Get a great director of college scouting, let him draft, and leave him the fuck alone. That's the way to do it. And they're not doing it that way. And it's not, that's not Larry Krueger saying that. That's the league. I'm just telling you what the way the league works. Stefan says favorite 49er coach to interview. Well, I like Chris Forster a little bit, but he'll tell you some stories, but definitely Kaczmarek. Definitely Chris Kaczmarek, because he's a truth teller. And if you ask him a tough question, he gives you the answer. He doesn't sit there and, glad hand a bunch of people, or, he may not throw guys under the bus, but he's not going to sugarcoat it either. But I like Kaczmarek a lot. I think Johnny Holland's also fun to talk to. Good A&M guy. Michael says Jared Wilson, impact offensive lineman for the Pats, was there in round 3. Yeah. Gigantic center from Georgia, 320 pounds, great athlete. You need a center. I mean, you passed on Zach Frazier for Ricky Pearsall the year before. When Ricky Pearsall was going to be like your third or fourth wide receiver, and now Zach Frazier is like one of the best centers in the NFL, one of the highest graded centers in the NFL, and he's on the Steelers. And look at the Steelers. Suddenly they rebuilt their line. Mason McCormick, Fatanu, Frazier. Suddenly they're looking pretty good. They can run it. They got a good-looking young offensive line. But Jared Wilson and Campbell have stepped in on that Patriots line. The Patriots look like they're closer to a Super Bowl at this point than the Niners, which is really hard to believe. It's really, really hard to believe. All right. I think that's pretty much it. We gave you the full breakdown. Well, we get some oddball questions, including this one. Larry, is it true that you eat chicken McNuggets? No, that would be false. My video's frozen. Someone said, Larry, your video's frozen. Oh, my God. Why is my video frozen? I'm not really sure. All right. On that note, we'll call it right here since we're at the end anyway. Thanks to all of you. Sorry for the frozen video. Thank you for supporting the Krug Show. And we should tell you all, 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time chat, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. And then Rise here says, Larry, you froze with Greg Papa earlier, too. All right. Well, there we go. We'll have to get Kev on it. Kev, what's going on? We got to figure it out. Anyway, thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show. And we have this one as well. Carnell Tate. I like Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Buckeyes. But, they got all kinds of issues. They got all kinds of issues right now. I would say the Niners need to draft 2 or 3 offensive linemen, 2 or 3 defensive linemen. They really need to bolster their line. That's where they need to go. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night. Thanks for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.